Okay, just a couple more errands and home for the weekend. God, what an exhausting damn day it's been. Stopped, sent the mail, and stocked up at the liquor store. That's how I spend my time these days, working so I don't have to think about her, and then drink until I pass out. Given that last statement, one might assume that I'm a typical alcoholic. Perhaps. But is it so typical to start drinking seriously at the age of 40? Up until that point, I've led my life without needing a crutch. Hell, now I need a damn wheelchair to get through the day. My life is a train wreck, and all my so-called friends have seen it happen, but have done absolutely nothing to stop the damn train. Well, fuck them. I don't need friends like them anyway. We'll all get along just fine if they keep keeping me in the dark like they always have. You know what? I think it would be better if we didn't communicate at all. Any one of them could have stopped the destruction of my marriage, but they stood there with their heads up each other's asses. They had all been there for me after Janet left me, every single one of them. I was so tired of listening to their excuses about not wanting to get involved. They all told me that I should have known this was going to happen. It was all so obvious to them. I seemed to be the only person in the neighborhood who didn't know anything. They could all kiss my ass. How can you see your wife of 15 years fall in love with another man and leave you when you are so blinded by love and trust? It was unthinkable. I wouldn't have seen that in a million years. Hell, I still can't believe it. I bet my life on her she got everything I had to give. Looking back, I realize I only have myself to blame for not stopping her when I had the chance. But how do you stop what you can't see? We've always had a great life. Most people have a few things they would change in their lives, but not me. At least not until that asshole Brad moved in next door. You know the kind. A little younger than you, a little prettier than you, and a loud-mouthed, chatty asshole. All the men next to their wives worry about him. But not old blind Mike? Me. I never even thought about it. Janet would never do anything to hurt me. Yeah, sure. I didn't like Brad from the first time I met him. But still, I never saw him as a threat. I loved my wife the way only a man can love a woman, and I had no reason to think Janet loved me any less. Our life was what fairy tales are written about, even though it seems like a horror story now. I can't even give you a reason why she left. All Janet said was that she was leaving me for Brad, and just like that, she was gone. No explanation, no apology, no goodbye. There was talk in the neighborhood that they were together, but no one knew any details. I had real insecurity now, and when I thought about our marriage, no other reason than sex came to mind. It still didn't make sense to me. We had a good sex life. There were never any problems. We were always honest with each other about what we liked and didn't like. The time we spent together was an important part of our lives since we didn't have children. We still made love several times a week, even after all the years we were married. I never saw any signs that her lovemaking had changed. A few weeks ago, she just walked out the door for Brad. I gave Janet a free pass, thinking she would at least tell me why. But she still hasn't gotten in touch. Even the divorce papers haven't been filed yet. I know it's over between us, but I wanted to know why. What had changed between us, because nothing I saw normally applied to us. When I woke up Sunday morning, I was already thinking about calling 911. Good God, why would a thinking person subject themselves to such violence? I realized why I had never drank until that moment. I had a hangover on top of a hangover on top of a hangover. It was insane. No human being was worth that kind of pain. I decided not to let Janet ruin what was left of my life. By late evening, I didn't want to die anymore. I gathered up all the booze scattered around the house and tossed it in the trash can as quietly as I could. This was my version of AA, a new 3-step process. Step 1 is to stop drinking. Step 2, forgive myself for the pain I had caused myself. Step 3 is to forget about why Janet left me. All the whys went in the trash can along with the booze. Hell, I didn't need 12 steps when 3 would have worked just as well. During the next week of sobriety, I had plenty of time to make a decision regarding my marriage to Janet. It was quite obvious that I could no longer tolerate Janet's actions, that she and Brad would pay for my hurt and anger, and they wouldn't even know I had done it. I'm going to take my time, let things settle down. My only action at that point was to protect all my assets. I contacted my bank and transferred most of my money to another bank in my name only. I canceled our joint credit cards, cashed out the CDs. Well, you get the idea. If I hurried and got lucky, by the looks of it, I would be broke in a month. I put the house on the market with instructions to expedite the sale. I wanted to get every last penny out of the country as soon as possible. It had to be done before Janet filed for divorce and froze all my money. None of this was exactly legal, but I wasn't about to answer any ex post facto questions. So far, she was playing right into my hands. My lawyer was a good friend. Richard had handled a few cases for me in the past. I explained to him that I needed divorce papers. I gave him only the necessary details, and his instructions were to hold the papers until I needed to serve them. I didn't have that kind of deadline yet. I tried to keep myself as inconspicuous as possible, changed all the locks on the house and phone numbers. At work, I left a directive not to take calls from Janet. It may sound silly now, but I needed to make it as difficult as possible to get through to her. Janet and I both had fairly high-paying jobs and, with no children, had managed to save a good amount of money. The house was sold much quicker than I had hoped. It had been a little over a month, and I was now living in a crappy little apartment near work. I had almost $1.2 million saved up in an account in the Cayman Islands, so I felt like I could disappear and live quite comfortably on what I had. I haven't done anything with my retirement accounts yet, but that will come later. Janet has a very responsible government job that requires a fairly high security clearance. The pay is good, but her government pension can't be touched for another 15 years or so. As it seemed to me, she had no other sources of support other than her paycheck and asshole Brad. On Friday, I asked a few guys from work to join me for a drink. No, I didn't start that shit up again. I needed to end up at a bar that Brad frequented for my plan to work. I just wanted to create the appearance of drinking. There were 5 of us that night, and the only reason I wanted them there was for an excuse to be in that pub. We ordered beers, and my plan was put into action. Right on schedule after a hard day's work, the chatty asshole arrived. He didn't notice me right away. After the second shot, I sent him a new one. The bartender took Brad's glass from him and told him where he was from. When he looked up at the bar and recognized me, I tipped my beer in his direction and turned to my friends and continued the conversation. He was caught off guard, like a deer in the headlights of a speeding truck. I saw his reflection in the mirror as he tried to figure out what the fuck had just happened. I never looked in his direction again. It was important to him not to see aggression on my part. I wanted so badly to walk over and beat the shit out of that asshole, but that would have destroyed any chance of revenge. I resisted that urge with all my might. I told myself, just back him up. Let him do all the work for you. I continued to play out this farce over the next few days. Night after night, I visited the same bar. More often than not, he was there with the same confused look on his face. He was being eaten up inside by the realization that I was there and didn't seem to notice him. What a narcissistic asshole he is. I was counting on him to make the first move, and he did. He couldn't stay away. Less than a week later, his curiosity took over and he approached me. "Hey, Mike, I want you to know that it wasn't anything personal, and it wasn't planned. You know, it just happened, and actually—" I raised my hand to stop him where he was. "It's nothing personal. You stole my wife, and you don't think it's personal," I thought. "It's okay, Brad. Don't even think about it. Hey, bartender, could you give us a couple of shots of the good stuff?" "Man, you seem to have a good attitude about it," he said as the shot glasses arrived. "To be honest, I'm glad I got rid of her. She was never the wife I was hoping for." I raised my glass and ordered 2 more shots. "Wow. You know, I've never seen you like this. You never drank at neighborhood parties?" "Well, Brad, I've never been able to drink before. When I first married Janet, I drank like a fish. I came home one night and passed out, and when I woke up the next morning, I had bruises all over my body. You know, it took me a few more times to learn my lesson and get my bearings. One night, I pretended to be drunk when I got home. I found out that Janet used to beat the shit out of me with a rolling pin when I came home high. You're kidding, right? Janet wouldn't do that. She wouldn't do that to me again, that's for sure. That's how, said I, finishing my drink. I lured Brad into some off-topic conversation about his job. I kept steering the conversation away from Janet. After a few more drinks, Brad went to the men's room to make room for a beer. I poured Rohypnol into his unfinished beer. It would only take me 15 minutes to get him back on his feet. I was already sober enough to drive a passed-out Brad home. I gave him several strategic blows to his kidneys and back. As quietly as possible, I laid him on the doorstep and drove home. I only wished I could have seen him wake up. The next day, I called Janet at work. She was very wary of my call. I didn't rant and rage, which caught her off guard. I told her that I had some things to take care of, but I wanted to meet in the next few weeks to talk about the division of our property. I had absolutely no intention of giving her anything, but I needed a reason to give her my new, non-suspicious cell phone number. For a while, we talked like old friends. I'm sorry, Mike. I really didn't plan for any of this to happen. Hey, I understand how it is, Janet. I don't want you to worry about it. I was so afraid to talk to you after. Please don't, Janet. It's okay. I'm fine and you're happy. That's enough. But Mike, I had to... Janet, look, I've got to go. I'll call you in a couple weeks. As I hung up the phone, I heard her crying. Yes, now she was feeling guilty. That was fine. Janet feels terrible about her attitude toward me, and Brad considers me his best friend. It couldn't have gone any better. I headed to the pub a little later than usual. After all, everything was already set up. When I arrived, Brad was already half in the bag. I walked over and slapped him on the back in the same place I'd hit him the night before. "How are you doing, Brad?" I asked as he flinched at the touch. "I've had better days, Mike." "Did you get a little crazy, Brad?" "Yeah, I guess I got a little overzealous last night. I don't even remember walking home." "You were pretty drunk last night. I helped you into a cab." "That explains why my car was still here today." "Mike, when Janet was beating you up, did you do anything about it?" "Yeah, I quit drinking." "So you let her get away with it?" "What the hell was I supposed to do? Call the police?" "She's my wife, or was, I guess. I couldn't do that, so I quit drinking." "I understand you." "Why, Brad, did she hit you?" "Oh no, just wondering." "Bartender, 2 over here," said I. Tonight's scenario will be the same as yesterday. The only difference would be the addition of a rolling pin. If I could guarantee one thing about Janet, it would be her love of baking pies. Her grandmother taught her how to bake, and there was never a time when there wasn't a piece of pie in the house to eat. She used an old French rolling pin that her grandmother had given her. It was exactly like the one I bought at the cooking store this afternoon. I can still see Janet with it in her hands. I bet Brad sees it now, too. I didn't subject Brad to the full treatment, enough to leave bruises on his body that will hurt for a week or so. I was careful not to break any bones, but it was enough to leave him in no doubt about what he thought had happened. The idea that Janet had beaten him was already deeply ingrained in his mind. A few evenings later, I found Brad at his usual spot at the pub. Tonight, he was sipping a soda. "Hey, Brad, what kind of drink is that? Are you on medication or something?" "No, just trying to take it down a bit. How have you been doing lately?" "Couldn't be better. You know, I have you to thank for taking that bitch off my hands. I haven't had this much fun in a long time." "How so, Mike?" "Shit, man. I got laid last night for the first time in 5 years. Man, it was great." "You're kidding, right? You're standing there trying to tell me that you and Janet haven't had sex in the last 5 years?" "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. The first year or two she put out, and then I had to beg her. After a while, I got tired of that shit and started taking things into my own hands, if you know what I mean. I could literally see the gears grinding in his head at this revelation. It was so simple, I still can't believe it. I bet in 2 weeks I could get him to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge and send me a thank you note afterward. I ordered 2 triple jacks with Cuervo. I needed to get some booze into this jerk. Come on, Brad, let's celebrate the end of my celibacy. I don't know if that's a good idea, Mike. I've been drinking a lot lately. Come on, pussy, drink up. This done, I knew he couldn't stand to be challenged and wouldn't answer it. He tossed it aside and started on the tequila. I took my drink and headed for the men's room. I poured it into the urinal, peed, and flushed. He returned the favor, and the next shot was already waiting for me when I returned to the bar. An hour later, he could barely walk. It wasn't easy, but I refused almost all the drinks. I almost felt sorry for the freak, almost. I beat him with a rolling pin for a good 5 minutes. He wouldn't soon forget his wounds, which he'd blame on Janet. I played Brad like an old familiar fiddle. My morning was bright and full of sunshine. Even if Janet gets away with beating Brad, the thought made me laugh. Even if Janet gets away with allegedly beating Brad, I had already managed to land my own blows on him. Either way, I was getting out of here. The ringing of a cell phone interrupted my musings. It was Janet, and she was using her one call from jail to talk to me. How thoughtful she was. It was very difficult to understand her between sobs. Mike, I had no one else to turn to. Janet, my God, what's going on? Are you okay? Mike, they arrested me. Brad came home drunk and passed out at the front door. When he came in the house this morning, he was screaming and yelling that I beat him up. Well, did you? How can you ask me that? You know me, I would never do such a thing. I thought I knew you once. I deserve this, Mike, but I need your help. Please, I have no one else to turn to. None of my friends will ever do business with me again after, you know. What are you being charged with? I've been told it's domestic violence and possibly assault. Jesus, Janet, you're going to lose your job over this. You know you can't get a security clearance now that you've been arrested. That's too bad. What am I supposed to do? Can you come and bail me out? I know I have no right to ask, but I'm in deep shit. I need to get out and deal with this whole mess. Well, Janet, you know I wish I could, but I'm out of town. Maybe I'll send Richard to you. Would that help? That would be just fine, Mike. I'll never be able to repay you. She was right. If she didn't find me, she wouldn't be able to pay me back. I was on my way to the airport when I called Richard and asked him to serve Janet with the divorce papers at the county courthouse. I don't think I stopped laughing until I got to Miami. I left Janet a total of $1,500 spread across our bank accounts, $100 for each year of our marriage. A few days later, having exchanged many currencies, I left the Caymans. Lying on the beach with a Diet Pepsi, I wondered how long Janet had stayed in jail. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll ask Richard when I tell him where to send the final divorce decree. I'm sure it will be a post office box 10,000 miles from where I am at the moment. I've got to run. My pies should be ready to come out of the oven. Yes, I kept it as a keepsake to remind me of the great times I had with my best buddy Brad.